The Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Real Doctor Who fans with real Doctor Who opinions.
Hello and welcome to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast, episode 311 of the podcast. I am Brett, and this is a solo edition, possibly a controversial edition of the podcast. Yes, my friends Liam, Legion, and Robert are not here with me, as they perhaps have been pulled out of space and time by a Gallifreyan time scoop. Some say that the last time they were spotted, there was a rotating black triangle somewhere in the sky. Others kind of a swishing pyramid of kind of a sandish type of a color. Who is to say? Either way, all we know is they're not here, but one has to question, who was the person behind the time scoop? And did they have an American accent or not? But that's besides the point. So, like I said and teased earlier, this is perhaps a very controversial podcast because I think that there's some questions and discussions that need to happen, and I think it is something that needs to be focused on. And I wish that I had a second voice to kind of bounce certain things on, possibly even, even me out just a tad. But this was a really intriguing thread that popped up on the Big Finish audio group. Now, I asked Legion before I go on if this was a discussion on the Big Finish, what is the other one? The Big Finish fan page, whatever it's called. I can't even remember. But and he said, no, there's really not much discussion being had there, which, again, I find super interesting because the Big Finish audio group is perhaps more in tune with fans than the actual Big Finish fan page. Anyway, that being said, the thread that started off on the 5th of January 2024 goes as follows. Any other long-term listeners losing enthusiasm for Big Finish? And I think this is a very interesting topic to discuss because we've discussed on this podcast multiple times about Big Finish burnout. Now, I think perhaps at times that can be pointed, the blame is the person in the mirror. As we kind of do or especially early on, for the most part, we listened to just about everything. I owned in the early years just about everything. And then after a while, the products started coming out. There's too many to number. And then as I started getting into comic books, listening to comic book podcasts and YouTube channels, I started noticing that they were very discreet in dropping certain books, or sometimes they were very vocal in dropping certain books and titles for either writing purposes or a story arc, or just the book sucked in general. And it was one of those things where, for some reason, I didn't even realize that was a possibility that I could do for a podcast focusing on Big Finish and stuff like that. To sit certain things out. And so I actually started sitting certain things out. Humphrey also did, and Legion did, and Liam did, and then listens to the last track on some of the ones that he does sit out on usually, except for the Omega Factor. But that's another story. Anyway, it's a very intriguing thought about losing enthusiasm for Big Finish. Again, is it burnout? Is this what could have been worded differently? Could this thread started off with, I'm having Big Finish burnout, but it is losing enthusiasm. And I think that's a very intriguing discussion to focus on because I am working on another future solo podcast looking at 2009 releases and kind of doing some nerd stuff and whatnot. And as I'm kind of going through it, as I'm kind of doing the prep work for it, I they weren't all great in 2009. Why 2009? It was just a year that I decided to start with. Also, it just happens to be about the same time that the Vortex magazine was coming out too. So there's kind of like hand-in-hand reason why I'm doing 2009 and not starting at the very beginning. But and also, it's not fair to compare and contrast the very beginning of Big Finish to present day because it's night and day. But you know what? If you kind of look in the middle as they're, 20 plus years on, I think that gives you kind of a better comparison, not a 100% one-to-one, but a better comparison. And so as I was been doing some research on certain things, the lack of titles or the singular format of certain things that were coming out. Now we are having them released in bulk. And not only are they being released in bulk, but they are also being released in box sets. Now, if I were to look at, let me just pull this up. If I were to look at the most recent Big Finish releases and compare and contrast with previous months. So let's take a look at the month of, I'm just going to go with November because myself and Liam are looking at doing a November-December 2023 review for Big Finish. So as I look at November's releases, we have the 8th Doctor Adventures Audacity. It is a box set. It has 3 parts to it. That is 3 hours. Okay, 3 hours of your time right there. Right now, currently $25.40 in American dollars. All right. Whodunit is a 1 hour. So right now we're at $4 or 4 hours right now if you are listening to everything. Then we have the War Master Rogue Encounters. Okay, this is a 4-part box set. So now we are now up to hour 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of content to listen to. Again, I'm just going to actually pause the monetary side of everything. We now are going to be moving on to the 10th Doctor Chronicles, Volume 8, Defenders of Earth. This is now, what is it? This is a 3-part series, so 3 more hours. So hour 9, 10, 11 of content being released. You have the, I'll just get to that one in a second. Then we have the 11th Doctor Chronicles, Broken Hearts, which is, the about doesn't, what is going on with this? The about doesn't have the titles. It just has the minutes. I don't think that's right. It says it's 81 minutes. Maybe it is right. Huh. Okay, so then that would be hour 12. If that is 81 minutes. Okay. I thought that was a longer box set than that. Then we go up to the audio novel, and that is 535 minutes for the audio novel, The Box of Terror, which is about 9 hours. So if you bought all of the, and that doesn't include the Big Finish Classics, The Chimes, which is a, let's just see what this is. This is a 97-minute. So if you bought everything and listened to everything, you are looking at a commitment of 20 hours. Now, I don't believe, everybody will be listening to everything, but that is a huge commitment in time. And back in the day, I would not have listened to the audio novel. So again, at least for me, that would be 11 hours. And again, that is quite a lot of commitment to do. Now, as I look at 2009, again, this is going to be for a future podcast, we have Stargate SG-1 First Prime, that is 1 hour long. Okay, we have Robin Hood Friendly Fire, that is 1 hour long. So now we're up to 2 hours. We have Iris Wildtime Panda Invasion, which is, they're releasing the individuals from a box set that came out at the very beginning of 2009. So that's hour 3. Robin Hood The Dam Buster, which is a 1 hour adventure, hour 4. We have The Enemy of the Dalek. This is a 2 hour thing, so 6 hours. Okay, Companion Chronicles, Mahogany Murders, 7 hours. And then The Beast of Orlok, 8 hours. Okay, that 8 hours. And if that's what you listen to, if you listen to everything from Big Finish, that's 8 hours. Now, compare and contrast, 20 hours, even 11 hours. Now, take this into consideration. I would not purchase or listen to, as much as as big of a fan of Stargate that I am, I would not listen to a two-hander, so I would not have listened to that. Robin Hood, as much as I enjoyed the BBC's Robin Hood, I would not have listened to that. I hate Iris Wildtime, I would not have listened to that. So I only would have compiled 4 hours of listening with Doctor Who stuff. So now compare and contrast 4 hours with either 11 or 20 hours of the output currently in this time. And I think that has to do with some of the struggles that's going on. So again, the thread is any other long-term listeners losing enthusiasm for a Big Finish. We get a sadly yes, up until a few months ago, I purchased every single Doctor Who release audio. Oh, this is Liam's secondary account. Anyway, says, but lately I found my to-listen-to list increasingly not getting the attention it usually would. I love that comment because in the current month that we are in, not the current month, the current year that we are in, as I looked at all the releases for October, even though we've already done it, like I have listened to not the Past Tense game because that's crap. I've listened to the Once and Future, the 2 1 hour things. I have not listened to Torchwood Odyssey. I was thinking about just doing like a whole trilogy binge-a-thon or whatever. And then I thought they had a third Doctor. Oh yeah, they had the third Doctor, Intelligence for War. I haven't had time to listen to Intelligence for War. I bought it. I pre-order every single third Doctor and fourth Doctor box set. Those are my go-to box sets for when they are released. It used to be third, fourth, and sixth Doctor, but now, because of Hebe, I can no longer do that. They also said, according to somebody, he says like, yeah, I used to invest in every single range. Now it's pretty much the third Doctor range, like this guy. And he used to consider Gallifrey essential, but from now he feels as though it has kind of gone downhill, which Liam adamantly, eventually got onto the thread and adamantly disagreed with. Interesting thing. So then again, I like this thread, and I think it's a really interesting discussion to have because it is long-term listeners, losing enthusiasm, I believe, as in currently. And we get a couple people coming in saying, yeah, I ran out of steam around the 50th anniversary. Somebody said I opted out of around 2016. So, I mean, yeah, you do have that. But some people have come in and saying, it's been quantity over quality. And then the whole 60th celebration CD thing has been a complete mess. I don't find like the quality of the CD special editions is not the mess I think it needs to be made out of deal. Do I think it's interesting? Yes. If this is a podcast, I also see it kind of as a Doctor Who talk radio show. Caller, you're on the air. Anyway, I find the most interesting thing about this, though, is I think it is actually, and it wasn't really talked about, the once and future stories have been the most disappointment for me personally. It was, we need to have a 60th celebration, and they just try to shove as much fan service as possible. Now, fan service, when done well, is fantastic, and I believe the majority of people like it. They do even when they know what happens. For example, the Spider-Man No Way Home, complete fan service, but it was a legitimate, enjoyable movie from the very beginning to the very end, and it also righted certain wrongs too at the same time. Now, sadly, Doctor Strange 2, I went in hoping for a continuation kind of the fallout of what happened in Spider-Man 2. And then it just, to me personally, became kind of a train wreck. But I'm not a huge Doctor Strange fan, in all honesty. Some people felt as though that around episode or main range 102, the Mission of Environs, it was, weak stories, blah, blah, blah. Thomas Brewster, less than whatever. The only thing I would disagree with is I believe the golden era of Big Finish. And I know Legion has said that the golden era is from 1 to 50 or 1 to circular time. And I, in my personal belief, would give it to starting with the Heroes of Sontar. No. Before that. Sorry. The Crimes of Thomas Brewster all the way to episode 200, maybe even 201 because of that Dalek story that Jonathan Morris incorrectly cited the reason why they were wearing the white Dalek suits. But that's neither here nor there. That's just fans being picky and whatnot. And that's what fans do. They nitpick about the show that they love. The other question that, this whole discussion brings up, that it didn't pop up, but I do think it is something to think about. Again, the main question, any other long-term listeners losing enthusiasm for Big Finish? And one has to discuss and bring up the topic of fan entitlement. Now, a lot of times, and especially in media, fan entitlement is seen as just a toxic fandom. Now, I disagree. I feel as though fan entitlement, like you want and need to, if you are running the corporation for a show that is hugely beloved by a large majority of people, those are the people that you need to appease. Fan entitlement is, fans is short for fanatics. The entitlement is they love something, they will throw their money at something so much, and they want it to be good. They want it to, no story can ever compete with, the fans, what if story scenario, their dream storyline. But you know what? You can do your best to appease the fans. And fan entitlement, there's nothing, in fact, wrong with fan entitlement, because fans, they are the ones with the money that they choose to either spend or they don't spend. And what you need to be on the lookout for is don't listen to the people that are 10 out of 10s. Don't listen to the people that are the 1 out of 10s. Nothing is 10 out of 10. Nothing is perfect. If you are giving things complete 10 out of 10s, you got problems, dude. Like, if you keep on giving everything 1 out of 10, you also got problems, dude. Now, I feel as though what's happening is both sides are over broadcasting. And I do think that the new window of where fans are going to be getting their right or wrong, also getting their opinions and excitement or unexcitement for things is going to be somewhat on podcasts, but those podcasts are the only ones that have a YouTube link. I think YouTubers are going to be the review sites of the future. What YouTubers say could possibly make or break franchises. And you need to, and the creators, Big Finish, BBC, Star Wars, Disney, Marvel, need to be looking at and watching some of these YouTube streams. They might not say nice things, but look at the crowd that is there and listen to what they're saying. Because if you are noticing your bottom line slowly shrinking, well, you do have some people who are the vocal minority for either positive or negatives, but watch what happens to your bottom line. Are you getting renewed subscriptions? Is your viewership numbers dropping? If the answer is no, people are not renewing their subscription for this. Yes, the ticket attendance at movies are dropping. Yes, the viewership is dropping. We talk about the differences between now and 20 years ago for, ratings and stuff like that and viewership and whatever. And I get it. It is completely different. It is something that I don't think people have a full grasp on. But I do know one thing. If people are passionate about it and they love it, they will put their money in a product that they love. If they don't, they won't. And if they want to watch it, they'll do it through illegal means. Now, I don't agree with that, but I do think that it is something to be very aware of, because it's not the loud minority or the silent or the loud that is saying, yay, this is good, or boo, this is bad. It is the people that say nothing and walk away. You can have the cheerleaders cheerlead your product till the cows come home. But if your bottom line is changing somehow, you've got problems. And stop promoting all of the positive views and start listening to some of the negative ones, because those are the ones that are giving you the actual feedback. Now, maybe it might be too extreme. You need to read between the lines. But to call fans who are, kind of disagreeing with what you're doing as toxic, well, that just kind of like, nobody likes being called toxic. So, you just lost some more people. It's a tricky line. I think it's a very interesting situation that occurs. As I go through this, again, some people say the quality is definitely dropping off on Doctor Who, and 2024 looks even more threadbare for good stories. Some recent series have also had writers' pet messages injected in not so subtle ways and repeating endlessly. Now, here's the interesting thing about that. And I did see that Liam jumped in on this whole thing. I understand there's always been messaging in everything. However, if it is overhanded, then, you're rubbing people the wrong way. Some people might like the overhandedness, but you know what? I think, especially now with the 24-hour news cycle that we live in, I think you might be more keen to keeping your audience around, making things happy, if it is a little bit, kind of not under the radar, for a lack of a better word. But you know what? Just have fun. I am in the process of moving, and I need to purge my comic catalog, a good majority of them. Well, at least probably about 30% or so. And I'm going through all the ones that I've read and not read, looking at reviews, looking at this and that. And here's the problem. The ones that are in my bin to, go to my local comic book store and turn it in for credit, those are the ones that are overhanded. And the sad part about it is a lot of the ones that are overhanded are a lot of the more modern ones. All of the ones that I bought, that are 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old. Yeah, there are messages in there. I won't disagree. But first off, we didn't live in a 24-hour news cycle. And the problem was not constantly shoved in your face. Now, if you're going to do what kind of Chibnall and some of these other, what is it? There was a storyline in a new Titan series for DC Comics. And one of the superheroes was basically, raging about global. I can't help you because there's global warming, blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the problem with that whole synopsis. You live in a world with superheroes. You live in a world with Superman. You have people that have magic. Can they not magic things away? Can they not change certain things around? You have Firestorm, who can change and mold and change the molecules into something like less toxic. You have Superman, who has super freezing breath. Can he not do this? The only thing that, leaves you to, hang your hat on is, these superheroes are actually villains because they actually don't care. No, bad things can happen, but you do not need to take comic books. You do not need to take Doctor Who stories, and you do not need to lecture people overhandedly. You can set certain things up and kind of have a message. You have the Monster of Peladon or whatever, the whole, what is it? I think Welch Miners thing, whatever. I have no idea what was going on with that. It never hit home to me. If it did, props to you. But it was just a story, not a good story in my opinion, but it was a story to me with, kind of like a United Nations type of a situation. Do stuff like that. Stop having things be on Earth. Stop with these stupid messages. I don't like it. And, I'm not going to buy and or listen to things like that have people's pet projects. I know the doctor's not supposed to interfere, but you know what? Currently, all the Gallifreyans are dead. Why doesn't he interfere? He or she interfere? Why do you lecture Ryan, who is, a cardboard cutout of a person, Graham and Yaz, on a situation that 3 people alone cannot change, even though it is a TV show and she's actually lecturing the audience. Again, nobody likes to be lectured. I know people really like speeches, whatever. I don't care. So as I look through, again, this, just to kind of look at Big Finish's maybe lack of quality or underwhelming quality, some people said, I opted out at the end of the monthly range. Wow. That is fantastic. It said, might consider individual box sets, but have not as of yet. And I think the funny thing and I was listening back to some of our older podcasts, around the 40s, 50s, 60s or whatever. And around that time in 2014-15, I believe it was Liam or Legion came out with the news that Big Finish is looking at ending the monthly range. And everybody, I feel as though everybody was pro that except for me. Now, I will tell you, I am always, stay the course. I don't like changes. I don't like new things. I like new things as long as it's the same and consistent. But I was not for it. And every single time that Big Finish now does a monthly range with this once and future thing, with this now Centauran war that they're going to be doing for 4 months or whatever, I think it's just showing that the lack of good quality stories. Some people are saying, the stories are getting samey and kind of dull. I'm currently listening to the most recent War Master box set. Good for you. Oh, and they just said it's just boring. Perhaps new writers are needed. I'll give you a hint, dude who wrote this. It's not the right. First off, the War Master sucks. It was a good 1 box set, and I think that is another thing. I think, they see the pros. Oh, look, Derek Jacobi is going to be reprising his role as the War Master. Look, a lot of people bought this. They want more. You know what? Why don't you do a Seinfeld and George Costanza? Just leave them wanting more. Kind of like what the BBC's Sherlock should have done instead of how it ended. They have, the 3 episode seasons. People absolutely love those. People in America wanted more, and it was just no, if they got more, it would just, degrade the quality, and then it just degraded regardless anyway. Some people said ever since the download price skyrocketed, yes. That's an interesting thing because the download price, and that must be somebody from America, I feel as though since they're no longer doing lots of physical media stuff, and here's the interesting thing with download stuff is with comic books, the if you were to buy a digital version of a comic book, you don't get the ads, but you don't also get the paper. And so, but they only give you a 10% discount compared to actually buying the actual physical comic book. Well, I can go into my local comic book store and I have a account there and I get 10% off. So I actually get to have a physical product. Same thing. It takes up less room, but the joy is I own it. They can't change the image. I own it forever until I decide to sell it. And that is also the scary thing. And again, I want Big Finish to continue doing products. What was it? One thing that I thought was funny in a podcast a little while ago, Liam was touting just how great. Somehow he must have an inside source on how good some certain things are going because he made a prognostication that the Passionist Gang is selling like gangbusters because did the 4-part whatever boring set, and now they have a new 4-part set that's going to be probably twice as lame. Just my opinion or whatever. He likes it. I'm glad he likes it. But he said that basically it is a massive seller and a massive hit. How do you know? Where are the numbers? Now, obviously, it's enough. The numbers are enough to, entice them to do a second box set or a second 4-part box set. Good for them. I'm glad that it's a success. I'd be kind of curious to see what the War Master numbers are, because I don't think that they're that good. And I'm not going to get into that again. Again, somebody said, not loss of enthusiasm, but we're reaching the point where it's impossible to enjoy the whole of even the main Doctor Who releases the same way you can, say, a TV episode or the original book series. And I think, again, it goes back to the whole box set thing. It was so nice just getting a monthly adventure. You knew what you're going to get. You're going to get a 4-part story until they started experimenting with the 2 1-hour stories. And then you had the, 4 4-part stories, which, you always knew 3 of them were probably going to be garbage. You just prayed that one of them was going to be good, or that maybe 2 of them would be good. But yeah. Then you have this situation. I'm finally constrained right now, so spending much less on Big Finish stuff. And then the continuations of box sets has never fired my enthusiasm at all. You have, I'm only a recent listener, started in 2019. I have purchased and listened to a lot in these few years. I'm be curious, because it says I listen to the older stuff, like the early main range. I'm just blown away by the creativity. And maybe that's what they're losing, certain things. You have, I used to listen to all of the River Song box sets. Haven't been intrigued at the slightest. Some say still some good ranges, but I'm fed up with the random doctors meeting random companions, etc. I kind of agree with that too. That used to be a cool, what if thing. And now they're doing it way, 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 way too much. I also think personally, and this goes into something that myself and Liam talked about in a previous podcast, is that Big Finish, I feel as though, especially about 2012, I didn't see it into there, but I have included the hot links to about 7 years worth of Big Finish missed sales. And I feel as though about 2012 or so, they would put releases that were closer to their original purchase date and sell at a massively reduced price. I like that. I was constantly buying stuff at that point in time. I have not purchased anything from their Big Finish missed sale in years. And as I was editing the podcast, I made, the crack that watch. They will put the Short Trips volumes 1 through 4 up. And they did. I bought that basically in 2011, 2012. The first time, at least the first time I saw it. Probably for the same exact price too. I think the sad thing about some of these Big Finish missed sales is they are doing the same thing over and over again. Now, I will take back some of my criticism, because there is a pattern to what they're doing. There's always a Blake 7 Chronicle box set that they sell. There's always a Short Trip one. Generally, then they always do the short trips. Something from the Big Finish Classics range will be in there. They will do something with Sherlock Holmes always. I wonder why. It's almost like the person who plays Sherlock Holmes has a kind of a bigger place to play in, in Big Finish. Whatever, doesn't matter to me. But if you look through a lot of the years, and again, I have at least hyperlinked all the way to about 2017. And if you look at all of those, you will see a pattern. There will be a couple of main range releases from time to time. There will be oftentimes a Dorian Gray. You'll have the Jack Gearson stuff that is constantly always being thrown at a discount or whatnot. This year they did Jago Lightfoot and Strax The Haunting. Well, I got news for you. They did that also, I believe, in 2018 or 2019 or 2017. There it is. 2018. December 2018, they did that. And so they're redoing some of the same releases for their Big Finish Mistale. If you really want to get people in, discount a box set to about £5 or so. Discount all your, series 1 of a box set. Try to get people in, because the interesting thing, when I was a part of the Big Finish listeners group, they had a box set of, what was it? No, people were talking about picking up, the Doom Coalition or Ravenous, and are just barely doing it. And this was, years after it came out. So they were paying not the pre-order price. They were paying the expensive full price for it. Props to them for doing that. I would have waited for that out for a sale. I would not have, paid at the time 30, I think it's now like 39 over here, for a 4-part story. Just wouldn't. But I don't know. That's what I think. What are your thoughts regarding this whole loss enthusiasm for Big Finish? Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts, positive, negative. Big Finish, if you're listening, I would love to hear your thoughts. Give me your rationale for some of the things that you did. If you don't want me to go to air for, I will not. I am good at keeping secrets. I will just find that interesting. But what are your thoughts regarding the loss of losing enthusiasm, not loss of losing enthusiasm for Big Finish, and maybe some of the reasons for that? So, I'm just going to end right here. I was going to do some other things, but I'll save that for another podcast. Again, email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. That is ALHAMBRA audio@gmail.com. You can tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. DMs are open. Until next time, I will see you in time.
You have been listening to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Doctor Who is owned and trademarked by the BBC. Doctor Who Alhambra is not affiliated with the BBC or Big Finish. No infringement is intended. Visit our website at alhambrapodcast.weebly.com or email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet us at Alhambra Podcast. That is ALHAMBRA Podcast. Thank you.